What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here with a brand new installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Lots to get to today, man. Oh man, is this podcast chock full of goodies for you? So we're back on our normal schedule, Monday, Wednesday, Friday podcast. Um, it feels good to be back into the swing of things, into this scheduled normalcy. Um, Man, you can tell football's right around the corner because I talk about this all the time. Deadline spur action, right? And everybody's ready to get active. Trent Williams is back ready for work. Jamar Chase is back ready for work. It's time to play football. We got a game tomorrow at 8:15. AFC Championship rematch. We'll preview that game, pick a winner here on the show today, among other topics. Man, am I excited. Are you ready for some football? The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description. Who else could it be? Me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 444th installment of the Louie T Network podcast, or as otherwise known as the Moses Malone podcast. 444. What you know about that 444? So glad to be here, chopping it up, talking with you today on the pod as we prepare for yet another NFL season. This feels good. Feels good to be back behind the mic on the precipice of another NFL season. I said this about a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. We made it. Give yourselves a round of applause. We made it. This one didn't feel as grueling and taxing and long to me. I don't know about you. This offseason didn't feel super long. I've gone through off seasons where it felt like a marathon that we would never get to the yellow tape, or excuse me, the red tape. We don't want the yellow tape. We don't want the yellow tape, the yellow caution tape. We don't want that. It felt like we were never going to get to the red tape. But we made it. We're here. And so many things have happened since the last time we spoke. And we actually talked on Saturday. So it wasn't that long ago that we spoke, and yet a lot has happened since then. For instance, Ricky Pearsall, rookie wide receiver of the San Francisco 49ers, was shot over the weekend. And thank God that he is okay. He's stable. He's been released from the hospital. And he's going to be able to play this season at some point, which was the last thing from anybody's mind when the situation first occurred. He was shot by a 17-year-old who was trying to rob him for his watch, among other things. And it reminds me so much of the Brian Robinson Jr. situation from 2 years ago, where you just think how senseless this is. And, you know, it's just unfortunate that you can't walk around. And it's not like he was in a bad part of town. Like with Brian Robinson, he might have been in a little bit of a sketchy part of town, but that still doesn't give anybody a right to try to rob you and shoot you. But it goes to show you that it doesn't matter where you are. Anything can happen at any time, and it's always somebody out there. I always tell y'all this when it's free agency time. It's always somebody out there eyeballing your stuff. Unfortunately, that happens in life too. And it's dudes that's out there that's trying to come up, and they see you as a come up because you got on your icy jewelry and you driving a fancy car. And they see all those things, and either they don't think they can do what you do, or they can't do the things that will allow them to get that the right way. So they just gonna go out and try to take it. And it's really unfortunate. I'm just glad that he was arrested and Ricky Pearsall is going to be okay. But that's a really unfortunate situation. Watched a lot of college football over the weekend. I'm always all in on college football the first week or two when there's no NFL. Then once the NFL comes around, screw it. I catch it when I can, but I'm not really pressed. But when it's fresh out of the package, man, am I all over that college football. And I was this weekend, watched that LSU USC game, among others. Of course, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. I watched some of the other, power schools destroy. The SEC was just murdering lower level competition. I mean, there were some big numbers put up, man. Tennessee destroyed Chattanooga. Alabama shut out Western Kentucky for Daber. What is his name? What is it? Cabor, the new Alabama head coach. He had a very impactful debut. Michigan struggled, right? But they got it done. Oregon struggled against Idaho of all teams, at home no less, but they still got it done. I don't know if there's any cause for concern there or not, but Ohio State didn't look super impressive, but they got it done, and they won going away. I watched Clemson in Georgia, obviously, and so watched a lot of college football. We can probably talk about that on Friday's episode because there's just so much more to get to today. I do want to ask you this, and you can leave it in the comment section. We can maybe discuss it a little bit when we get to social media maneuvers. What was the most impressive thing you saw from the college football weekend this past weekend? What was the most impressive thing? Florida State sucks. I do know that. God, DJ Ugalele stinks. Wherever he goes, funk follows. He had one little good season at Oregon State, and he tried to parlay that into a trip back to the ACC, and he was promptly denied when he got back. He started out at Clemson, was trash, went to Oregon State after a couple failed seasons at Clemson. It felt like he had reinvigorated his collegiate career, goes back to the ACC now as a member of the Seminoles, and boy, does he stink. Jeez Louise. How about the Indiana Fever making the postseason for the first time since 2016, ending the longest drought in WNBA history? Good for Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston and company. Look, you can sit here and try to act like Caitlin Clark doesn't make a difference. She didn't just fill up the seats and make a difference in the box office, right? She didn't just make a difference in viewership. She makes a difference on the court too, contrary to popular belief. The Fever are over 500. They're in the postseason. Good for them. I may even take a gander at it. Who knows, right? We'll see. I doubt it, but you never know. You never know, right? How about some money being dished out? This is part of knowing that you're close to the finish line, because I talk about this all the time. Deadlines spur action. And so deals get done when the deadlines get close. And we're pushing up against that deadline. Because guys don't want to talk about money. Teams don't want to talk about money and contracts once the season starts. So if you can't get my contract done before we start the season, don't worry about it. And once that happens, you're in trouble. Because if I get to the end of the season, that means I'm one step closer to free agency. At that point, I don't even want to listen to you at this point. Now, you're going to have to franchise tag me, and then shit gets really murky. And in the case of the Cowboys, you don't have the franchise tag to lean on. I mean, shit gets really messy at that point. And depending on how this season goes, could be the end of the Dak Prescott era in Dallas if something doesn't get done here in the next couple of days. So I'll be looking for that, because if Dallas is smart, they'll figure out a way to pay Dak Prescott here before the season starts. I've heard nothing that suggests that that's going to happen, but I wouldn't be shocked to see that come across my timeline, because if it doesn't, you're playing a very dangerous game of roulette here if you're Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys, a game that you really, really don't want to get involved in, because this doesn't end well for you. This does not end well for you. But a lot of guys have gotten paid. Cam Hayward, 3 years, $45 million extension with 29 of it guaranteed to stay in Pittsburgh. That's going to allow him to end his career where it started. Good for him. He's still one of the better defensive linemen in all of the National Football League. Michael Carter, 3 years, 30 years, or 3 years, $30 million with 19 of it guaranteed to stay in New York and extend as their nickel corner. He's one of the better nickel corners in all of the National Football League, and he gets paid for his services. Patrick Surtain II got a 4-year, $96 million deal with 77 and a half of it guaranteed. That's damn near the entire contract, right? Makes him the highest paid DB in NFL history. Good for Patrick Surtain II. I almost am jaded at saying somebody's the highest paid because that's just the norm now, right? Everybody's the highest paid. He'll be the highest paid DB for 2 days, and then somebody else will get a deal before the season starts on Friday or something like that. But the next guy up is the highest paid guy, right? So, and then Trent Williams, this is the most significant deal of them all that has occurred over the last 3 to 4 days. It's Trent Williams signing a 3-year, $82.6 million extension with the 49ers. It's really more of a reworking of his current deal. He had 3 years left on his contract that he had signed in 2021. I think he signed a 26-year deal in 2021. He had 3 years left, but there was no guaranteed money. So they essentially gave him guaranteed money in this $82.6 million deal. He's the third highest paid offensive lineman in the league with this deal, but he is from a upcoming season standpoint, he has the highest salary of any of those offensive linemen at $27 million. I think he's going to make this season. So good for Trent. He said a huge motivating factor to get the deal done was when Ricky Pearsall got shot. I don't know, what that did inside of him and what that said to him and how that spoke to him, but it made him want to get back on the field. And obviously it didn't hurt that the 49ers came to the table with a deal that made sense for all parties, or at least for his side of things. But I digress. And then Sam Cosmi today struck a 4-year, $74 million deal to extension to stay in Washington. Smart move by that organization to get in front of that Sam Cosmi train, because that thing is motoring forward, and he's vastly becoming one of the best interior offensive linemen in the NFL. And so good to see them taking care of one of their best players sooner rather than later. So with that said, a lot going on, but you know what we got to do, right? And that ain't stopping us from doing what we got to do. Let's drop this gem on your melon, man. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So I want to pick division winners today. We haven't really gone through the divisions and talked about what we thought was going to happen. I'm going to give you not only my division winners, I'm going to give you the runner-ups in those divisions as well. So we'll go through each division and talk about what I think is going to ultimately take place, who I see winning the division, and who I see coming in second place. So we'll start with the victors. We got the 2-time defending Super Bowl champions who will be on display on Thursday Night Football, kicking off the season, looking to do something no NFL team has ever done. And that's the repeat. In the Kansas City Chiefs. And until somebody, as Boss says, as my dad always says, until somebody knocks them off, they the champs. And so how long have they been winning that division for? Since, you got to go back to the Alex Smith days, right? Like, we probably talking 2015, 2014 is the last time they didn't win that division. My guess is because Alex Smith won it, I want to say 2 years in a row. I want to say 14 was the last time they didn't win the division. I think they lost to the Indianapolis Colts in Wild Card Weekend when they were up like 41 to like 7. It was probably more like 34-7 or something like that. But they ended up losing that game after being up big to Indianapolis. I think that was in 14. Then they won the division in 15. They couldn't beat the Chiefs. Then they won the division in 16. And I want to say they won it in 15 and they lost to the Titans. I think I have it backwards. They won it in 15, lost to the Steelers, won it in 16, and I think they lost to Mariota and the Titans. No, I know what it is. 17 was the Mariota season. I think it was. because Mariota wasn't he didn't win the division as a rookie. Mariota's rookie season was 15. He didn't go to the playoffs until year 3, I believe. And then he won a playoff game. 2017. That was the last straw, I think. 16 was the Steelers game where they didn't score a touchdown and they lost. I think the Steelers kicked like 5 field goals and beat them. And I think the last straw was losing to the Titans. And then Mahomes took over. They traded Alex Smith in 18. Mahomes took over, and the rest is history. So I think the last time they did not win the division would be 2015, which would have been that playoff game against the Colts, if my memory serves me correct. So they almost have won this division every year straight for the last decade. And until somebody changes that, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs division to lose. Now, I do think they're going to have real competition this year, not from Denver, not from the Vegas Raiders and their nasty quarterback situation. Of course, you know who I'm talking about. You already know who I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Los Angeles Chargers and John Harbaugh, wherever he goes. Or excuse me, Jim. Got to get used to saying that name again. Jim Harbaugh. Wherever he goes, winning follows. Now, how fast do they turn it around in Los Angeles? I don't love their skill position, but we know Jim's going to run the shit out of the football, be physical, and Justin Herbert can facilitate that. So we'll see how things go. I don't necessarily love their skill guys and who he's throwing the football to, but if they're running it well enough, guys will be open. Don't you worry. If they're running the hell out of that football like we know Jim Harbaugh wants to do, that play action fake will be devastating. But give me the Chiefs in the AFC West to win it again. And I think the Chargers are going to be right on their coattails. I mean, right behind them. If they slip up at all, I think the Chargers could take that division. But give me the Chiefs in the AFC West. They played against a team from the West in the NFC, in the San Francisco 49ers in the Super Bowl. So that's where we'll go next. The San Francisco 49ers actually is the team that I think is going to win that division in the NFC West. Again, they've been the best team in that division for quite some time now. And at some point, you feel like that thing's going to crumble in San Francisco. But it felt very tumultuous this offseason with, the Brandon Ayuk situation, the Trent Williams situation, now Ricky Pearsall getting shot. Were they going to trade Ayuk? Weren't they going to trade him? Trent Williams then holding out, waiting for his bread to get out of the oven. They got a lot going on in San Francisco. But ultimately, as the case per usual, they get it done, right? This is always the time frame in which things get done in San Francisco. We talked about that already. And so they followed the script. They went according to plan, and they got everything done in a timely manner. As I said, deadline spur action. Here they are. They're ready to go. And they look to get back to the Super Bowl once again, NFC Championship game once again. And they start that quest on Sunday. And we'll see what happens, or excuse me, Monday. That quest starts on Monday against the Jets at home. So we'll see what happens there. But I got the 49ers winning that division until, again, much like the Chiefs, until somebody else stands up in that division and says, nah, not this time. It's got to be San Francisco. You know who's interesting in that division? The Rams. Now, no one talks about the Rams. They're easily forgotten about. No more Aaron Donald, so I'm really anxious to see what that looks like. The health of Matthew Stafford is so critical for their success. I mean, what am I saying? Any quarterback that's a starter that moves the needle, his health is going to be huge in determining the success of the team that he quarterbacks. So I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. But with the Rams, they essentially go. There are other teams that can stay afloat without their starting quarterback for a 2 to 4 week period. The Rams absolutely stink without Matthew Stafford. They're horrible without him. And they're going to compete, though. But I'm interested to see what happens with them. They got this kind of two-headed monster at receiver now that Cooper Kupp is finally healthy. He was never really healthy last year. And now with Puka Nakua's emergence, I'm actually interested to see what that looks like. They drafted Blake Corum, so now they got this 1-2 punch at the running back position between him and Kyron Williams, and they look the same. They're like doppelgangers. So that offense runs so well when Kyron Williams is healthy. Now you got to deal with Blake Corum as well. So I think the Rams are going to be dangerous this year, but not dangerous enough to win the division. I'm still taking the 49ers, but I think the Rams are going to come in second in that division, and they're going to make things very competitive there. Don't sleep on Arizona this year. I just got this sneaky feeling that the Cardinals are going to be really, really solid this year, and they're going to be attacking a playoff spot aggressively. I don't know if they're going to make it, but they're going to be in the mix. I just think Kyler Murray seems like he's on a mission this year. I thought that was a well-coached team last year, despite their record, because of their quarterback situation for much of the year last year. I just think the Cardinals have a chance to be in that mix and making a little bit of noise. I worry about Seattle a little bit. I'm not going to front. It's a lot of change out there. I'm not sure how I feel about the Seahawks right now, but look out for Arizona. But I think the 49ers are still your division winner out there, and I think the Rams are still going to be in second place and threaten to make the postseason and probably make it if Stafford's healthy this year, and that's a big if. I think they make the playoffs as well. So now let's head to a different division, right? Let's now go to the AFC North, okay? And really, we're going to stay in the North because that's where our runner-ups came from, in the Ravens and the Lions. We'll start with the Baltimore Ravens in their division, the AFC North. And I've always said this, and nothing has changed for me, and I'm going to stay consistent because that's what I do. If Joe Burrow is healthy, Cincinnati Bengals win the AFC North. Simple as that. I'm not waffling. I'm not switching up. I'm not flipping the script. I told y'all last year, if Joe Burrow were to stay healthy, they were going to win that division last year. Burrow's healthy. Let's see if it stays that way. But this has always been my rallying cry. When Joe Burrow starts and finishes a season, the Bengals have been no worse than the AFC Championship game. Don't kill the messenger, okay? I'm just delivering the message. That's it. All right? And if he's healthy this year, and I think they understand that the window, I won't say it's closing, because if you got Burrow and you got Jamar Chase, it's going to be open. But defensively, how much longer are you going to be this good? How much longer are you going to have Trey Hendrickson? How much longer? This is it for T. Higgins, right? I mean, how much longer is this nucleus going to be together? This is it, you would think. Now, you could have somebody step in, take T. Higgins' place next year, and be able to keep the party going, which is why they drafted one of my favorite receivers in the draft this year out of Alabama, right? Jermaine Burton. He might be able to step up and fill that T. Higgins role next year, and they keep the party going. But as of right now, you got to go after it and attack it aggressively if you're Cincinnati, because you just don't know what the future holds. I mean, you can say that about any team in the NFL, but there are certain teams set up for success for, the foreseeable future. Cincinnati feels like they had a window and they didn't get it done because Burrow couldn't stay healthy. So now you really have to go after it this year, and I think they're going to do that. I got Cincinnati winning this division, and I got Baltimore right behind them. I don't know what to make of Cleveland because I don't think Deshaun Watson is any good. I told you, I don't think he's a good fit for that offense, first and foremost. He can't stay healthy, number two. Has anybody had a more precipitous fall from grace than Deshaun Watson outside of Russell Wilson at the quarterback position over the last 4 to 5 years? I mean, let's even narrow that focus to 3 years. Has anybody had a worse fall? A further fall? I mean, Deshaun Watson was once viewed as an elite quarterback. There were teams lining up to try to trade for this guy despite his situation. And now look at him. He is the most overpaid, overrated quarterback you could argue in NFL history right now. The man is counting $63 million against the Browns cap. Now, he's won games for them when he does play, which seems very few it seems few and far between the starts, but when he plays, he wins. I think he was 4-1 for them last year before he got hurt. But it feels off. That's a good defense though. But I still got the Bengals, and I've got the Ravens second in that division. How about the NFC North? Man, this is a tough one. The Bears are on the rise. The Packers are like, don't forget about us. And the Lions are like, hey, it took us 60 years to get here. We're not going away after just 1 year. We're here to stay. And I believe them, right? I just believe their mentality, the way that they go about business. You talk about a team set up for success for the foreseeable future. It feels like Detroit is set up for success for the foreseeable future. Obviously, Jared Goff has to continue to play the way that he played last year. I have no doubts that he can continue to do that. They've kind of rallied behind him. Jared Goff is good enough for us. It has been their mantra and their motto. And if he continues to be that way for them, they're going to be a tough team to beat because they have a play style and a mentality that mirrors that of their head coach. And I love me some Dan Campbell. Pause. My goodness. He's my favorite head coach in the league right now. My guy, Dan Quinn, is going to have some, work to do to catch up to Dan Campbell because Dan Campbell's a badass. And his team, it kind of exudes that personality and that mindset, right? So I just think until somebody is able to knock off Detroit, and I'm anxious to see if Detroit can follow up what felt like a magic carpet ride type of season, but it wasn't a fluke. Like they built their way up to that. It's one thing when you come out of nowhere, you surprise people like the Texans did last year, and now I want to see if you can sustain it. The Lions have been coming, pause, for 3 years now, right? Dan Campbell's first year, they were awful, but they fought and they were in a lot of games and they just didn't know how to win. The second year, they started 0-6. They finished up the season 9-8, and you knew the next year, look out for Detroit. And then what did they do last year? They went out and they won that division and won 12 games and were absolutely fantastic a season ago. So this isn't a surprise or a fluke. And I think they can do it again. And I'm going to have them doing it again. But I wouldn't be shocked if Green Bay came back and took that division. But I got to see it from Jordan Love for a full 17 games because it felt like he came on like game busters at the end of the season last year. He started out really well. Then it was this kind of malaise through the middle portion of the season. And then he got hot late, got him into the postseason. And then we saw what he did when he got there. Now I want to see it for 17 weeks. He looks like he's ready to explode. Pause again. But I got to see it, man. And they remember they went to Detroit and dismantled the Lions on Thanksgiving. So they're not afraid of Detroit. I think that's going to be a very competitive division between Green Bay and Detroit. I just got the Lions edging them out, and I got Green Bay coming in second there. Let's take a trip to the East, to the NFC East. And I think this is the Philadelphia Eagles division to lose. No team has repeated as division winner in the NFC since NFC East since 03-04 when the Eagles did it. And I think that's going to be the case again because Dallas won the division last year. I think Philadelphia wins it this year. But I'm telling you right now, the Eagles are on shaky ground. If they start this, look, they got a tough game on Friday over in Brazil against the Green Bay Packers. If they don't win that game and they get off to a slow start this season, I'm telling you, they feel like a very finicky and fragile-minded team that will start to point fingers, and it feels like it can unravel very quickly. You got to keep in mind, Vic Fangio is out there. Nobody likes Vic Fangio. I'm not talking about Eagles players right now. They don't like him on the inside. They're not going to say it publicly right now because they want change. And if he comes in and affects change, you'll do whatever somebody tells you to do and how they tell you to do it if they're getting results. But let him not get results. Let them not win games. That shit can go off the rails very quickly. Okay, very quickly. So I think they're going to hold it together long enough to win the division because I don't think Dallas is going to be all that great this season. I think they've got their own set of issues, do the Cowboys. They're lucky that the Commanders and the Giants aren't ready to press them because if they were, I really feel like this division could be up for grabs because I don't think the Eagles are going to be this juggernaut that they've been the last couple of years. I don't think, I mean, remember the Eagles, although they had a nasty finish to the season last year, remember they started the season off like 6-0 last season. They were 10-1, right? People forget that because of how bad the finish to the season was. So they were a dominant team for much of the year last year. I don't see that being the case this year. And you could argue that their roster may be better. It's hard for me to argue that the roster is better without guys like Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey. It's hard for me to envision them being better. But I think on paper, their roster might actually be better. And Hassan Reddick, don't want to forget that he's no longer there, because I don't know where the pass rush is going to come from. But at the end of the day, I still think they're the best team on paper in that division. And I think they still win the division. And I think Dallas is still the second best team in the division. And again, I don't think that I'm that confident in Dallas. It's just, who else is going to be second in the division? Yeah, a lot of people are picking the Commanders as a surprise team. That's cute, but I don't see that happening. I'd love for it to happen. Hell, I'd love to challenge Philly for the division, but I'm a realist, and I understand what this first year of this, new regime and this recalibration is supposed to look like. And until they change my mind and tell me otherwise, it's 7 or 8 wins for the Commanders, and that's not going to be good enough to get second place in this division. So I'll take Philadelphia to win the division and Dallas to be in second place. I think there is no more intriguing division this year than the AFC East, because Buffalo does not seem prepared to defend their crown. I think what have they been, the AFC East champs? 4 years in a row now? The Patriots passed the baton in Brady's last year, which was 19, and ever since then, the Bills have taken that baton and run with it very, very far. 2021 and 22, 2021, 22, 20. Yeah, 4 years in a row. They don't feel like they're ready to make it 5. Not to me, at least. A lot of change defensively. The 2 safeties aren't there. Defensively, I don't really know what to make of them. Offensively, they feel very, very brittle right now because of their receiver situation. They still got those tight ends. They still got Josh Allen. They have, a running back situation that can help with the pass catching back. So they got enough, as much as people make of Washington's receiving core. And I talk about, well, it's not just the receivers, it's the entire offense, right? Same thing can be said for Buffalo, right? They got those tight ends. They got a pass catching running back. They're not void of talent at receivers, just not the high end talent that they've had over the last 4 years or so. Curtis Samuel already dealing with an injury isn't good, right? But we'll see what they're able to do. It just doesn't feel like a Bills division winning season here. But I'm not ready to pass, the division over to Miami. Yeah, right. I don't trust the Dolphins at all. So then there's the Jets. And I've heard, a lot of things about the Jets and how, don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. There's turmoil out there, and Aaron Rodgers and this, that, and the third. Look, Aaron Rodgers has never been a guy that's going to win the most popular contest. No matter where he's been. Even in Green Bay, he wasn't always beloved by his teammates. That's not who Aaron Rodgers doesn't give a shit about if you like him or not. The bottom line is, are you getting the job done? And Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to go over there and be A-Rod and win league MVP like he did, 2 out of his final 3 years in Green Bay. He doesn't have to do that. With that defense, all he's got to do is go over there and play the kind of football that we know he's capable of. Don't turn it over. Be very cerebral when those opportunities present themselves. And the Jets can be one of the best teams, not just in the AFC East, not just in the AFC, but in the NFL. I'm not overlooking that. People want me to believe that there's some kind of, nastiness going on out there in Jersey with this Jets team, and that it could implode. If Aaron Rodgers isn't healthy, it will implode. But if he's healthy, I don't think Aaron is falling completely off of a cliff yet. I refuse to believe that. I think Aaron Rodgers can still play at a high level. And if that's the case, give me the Jets in that division. I'm not backing off of my Jets prediction. I thought they were going to be one of the best teams in football last year. Rodgers got hurt. We saw what happened. We saw how good they were and how they challenged some of the best in the NFL, and either won the game, like in the case against Kansas City and Philadelphia, or they lost very close in a game that they easily could have won had they had better quarterbacking. So give me the Jets in that division, and I'll take the Buffalo Bills because I just don't trust Miami. Give me Buffalo as the runner-up there. I wouldn't be shocked if Buffalo still won that division. Anybody but Miami is the way I see it. Okay. But we'll see. I could be wrong about the Dolphins, and they could be ready to take that step. I just don't see it. They're soft to me. Until they prove me wrong and show me otherwise, they're soft come December. That's what a Dolphins fan told me. I remember very vividly. I want to say it was SoFlo Sports. Say, man, I don't want to hear shit about my Dolphins because when December comes, we're going to fold up like a cheap lawn chair. And what did they do last year? I just, until they show me that that's not who they are, that's who they are. Give me the Jets. Bills backing them up in that division. And then we go to arguably the two worst divisions of football. They just happen to both be in the South. We'll start with the AFC South, the better of the two divisions, where you find the Houston Texans, who had this magical season last year. First-year head coach, DeMeco Ryans, first-year quarterback, C.J. Stroud, took the league by storm, won the division, won a playoff game in convincing fashion over the Browns, and you know, kind of threatened the Ravens for about a half of football or so. And I'm not sure that I buy the Texans running it back. But I look at the rest of the division and I say, why not? Who's stopping them from running it back, right? I don't trust Indy. Tennessee's definitely not ready to do anything. And I look at Jacksonville and say, look, you started off the season last year like 9-3 or something like that, 8-3, and then you collapsed. You know, I think it coincided with Trevor Lawrence's health declining and not being healthy, but it doesn't matter. They didn't play well down the stretch last year, did Jacksonville. And while I want to go Jacksonville in this division, I just, Houston, I trust CJ Stroud. I do. I think that dude is legit and he's the real deal. And I just think that's a well-coached ball club. Love their offensive coordinator. Love DeMeco Ryans and his temperament. They got better this offseason. Yeah, I know they're now a marked man. They're a marked team. They're no longer the hunter. They're the hunted. And I want to see how they do with that. But at the same time, I'm like, man, oh, man, they look good. You know, Danielle Hunter and Stephon Diggs and all the guys that they've added. I'm like, man, they look good. I gotta go Houston. My gut is telling me Jacksonville, but I gotta go Houston, man. I got Jacksonville right there. And if Houston slips up, like Stroud had some, injury concerns last year, missed a couple of games. Like if there's a 4 or 5 week stretch where he can't play, Jacksonville's taking that division. If he's healthy this year and they're able to play the kind of football that is going to be required. They won a lot of games where CJ Stroud put on the cape against Tampa Bay, against Cincinnati, where he put on the cape and said, we're not losing today. If they can find a way to win games like that again in terms of those close games, because they're going to be some close games, they're going to win that division. I got Houston, but boy, I went back and forth on this one with Jacksonville, but I got Houston winning division in Jacksonville coming in second. And then the NFC South. I think this is going to be one of the more improved divisions this year. Now, I don't know what to make of New Orleans, right? I'm not a big New Orleans Saints fan. They kind of are very meh to me. But even meh, I don't think they're going to bottom out, be one of the worst teams in football, anything like that. There's going to be an 8-9 win team, 7-8-9 win, somewhere in that neighborhood. And so, Carolina, I think they're going to be vastly improved. They can't be much worse than they were last year. I like what Dave Canales is doing out there so far. Again, I haven't seen anything on offense because he didn't play any of his starters, so I don't even know what they're doing. But I just like his mentality, and how he's approaching Bryce Young. But you got to take the bubble wrap off now, right? This ain't the preseason. He's got to play, and we got to see what he's actually doing. And is there any improvement? The roster's better. Right? They improved the offensive line. They spent a lot of money on that offensive line. They improved the skill positions. Well, let's see what you got now, right? You'll get Jonathan Brooks, the best running back in the draft this past year. At some point this season, he'll be off of the PUP list at, let's call it week 6 or 7. But this is all about Atlanta. They're going for it. You go out, you get Kirk Cousins. You go out and You trade for Matthew Judon, and you make a series of moves that suggest we're going for it. So this was a team last year with better quarterbacking, would have been in the playoffs, would have won that division, would have been in the playoffs, and would have been dangerous. Different defensive coordinator. They had a really good defense last year, and their defensive coordinator is now in Jacksonville. So Raheem Morris comes over. He knows everything, right? Offense, defense. He's been on both sides of the football. New regime there. How fast do they take to what Raheem Morris is preaching? I'm interested in the Falcons. I think they're going to be the best team in that division. I think they're going to be a dangerous team in the conference overall. I got the Falcons winning that division, and I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won the division last year, in second. And honestly, they're in second because who else is going to be in second? I mean, I guess you could say New Orleans, but I don't trust Derek Carr. I don't trust the New Orleans Saints. And I don't think Carolina's ready to make that kind of a power move, all the way from dead last and the worst team in football a season ago to second in their own division. I don't think the division is going to be that bad where they're going to be able to do that. So I'll take Atlanta to win the division and Tampa Bay to bring up or to be the runner up there. So those are my division winners. All right. In the NFC, Philadelphia, Detroit, Atlanta, and San Francisco. In the AFC, the Jets, the Bengals, the Texans, and the Chiefs. Kind of feels chalk, right? I think every single one of those teams won their divisions last year, with the exception of the Jets, Bengals, and Falcons. But the Eagles. So I take that back. Half of the divisions I have having new division winners. So I don't feel bad about that. Feel good about my decisions, and we'll see what happens with that. We'll come back and I guess we'll take a look at it at season's end and see how I did. So with that said, let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midday marauder. Y'all know what it is. If you're out there and you want your comment read on the air, use the super chat function to ensure that that happens. It also allows you to jump straight to the front of the line, and we will react to your comment. Otherwise, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, we will get to your comment and react to it. So start lining those up. We'll get to a few of those. We don't have a ton of time today. My son has back to school night is tonight. So got to go there and meet we already met one of his teachers. That's another story for another day. So let's get to the comment section, shall we? I think we shall. We start off with Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Red Wings 01 writes, Cosme gets his bag. This regime continues to impress by not repeating the same mistakes of the past, not doing the Brandon Sheriff song and dance again. We're going to talk about that tonight on the show live. That is the perfect way to sum that up, Red Wings 01. It's the first thing I thought of when I saw that he got the contract. I said, okay, they understand how this works, which I'm not surprised. Are you surprised? Not, you shouldn't be. Not with what this group has done since they've gotten here and how they've moved seamlessly through the entire offseason and pressed almost every right button. This is just another example of them understanding how it works and continuing to press the right button. So we'll talk more about it tonight extensively on Commanders Nightly News Live. JP, my guy John Perez, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, you already know who I got winning the AFC East. Been saying it all offseason. Not a believer in the Jets or the Bills. Give me the Fins. Yeah, you've been on that narrative and hard. So I'm going to hold you to the fire now. If they win the division, I'm going to give you all the credit in the world, because you were talking about the Dolphins winning the division before. I really haven't heard a lot of people saying they're going to win the division, but before anybody said they were going to win the division, you were, because you've been saying all along you don't believe in the Jets. You've been a huge detractor of the Jets. And I think you're just looking at the Bills and just saying, I'm not feeling the vibe right now, as most people probably are with the Bills. But you said give you the Fins. We'll see how it goes. I'm just telling you, don't sleep on the Jets, man. I'm not counting them out with that defense. JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. who writes, I also like the Bears to win the NFC North. Ah, man. I don't think Caleb Williams is ready to take the Bears where they want to go. I think they're going to be vastly improved. They've done a lot to put that roster in a position to be very competitive this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they made the playoffs, but they're not winning that division. They play in a really good division. Like Green Bay is a good team. Detroit is one of the best teams in the conference. And even Minnesota, I get it, their quarterback situation isn't ideal. They're not going to be a pushover. So I think the Bears will have some growing pains with a young quarterback. There will be mistakes. And he's going to have to prove that he can sit in the pocket and not try to be this off-script wizard. He's going to have to prove that he can sit in the pocket and operate from the pocket. I love when things break down, his ability to make things happen. That's that Mahomes-esque quality about him. But you also got to be able to operate from the pocket. And we'll see if he can do that consistently. That'll be the key, because I know he can. Can he do it consistently? We'll see. I don't think he'll be able to do it consistently enough for them to win the division in year one. But I do think they're going to be a much improved team. I do think that will be the case when it's all said and done. Let's see. Let's get to the comment section real quick. Rich says, I like some of the players from Notre Dame after this week. I already know Ben Morrison, but Watts in the other corner were good too. Also like both of your young running backs. I was most impressed with the young running backs, because one thing that Notre Dame seems to lack is explosiveness, dynamic ability. And the running back showed me that they're dynamic and have explosiveness. We don't get the caliber of athletes at Notre Dame. Obviously, it's in a Catholic school in South Bend, Indiana. It's not an ideal place to be. So we don't get in the getting into the university. It's such a strict academic university. To get in is tough, right? They're not cutting corners to let guys in, right? So it was fun to see athletes out there. I still think we're lacking at certain positions, like receiver. I don't think we have any dynamic receivers, but our running backs are dynamic. You talked about our secondary is ridiculously good. Watts was a beast last year. Xavier Watts was a beast last year. Had 7 picks last year. So you kind of knew what he was all about. He had another pick in the game against Texas A&M. And so I love the secondary. I love the defense as a whole, but I still got my doubts about the offense, but we'll see. Yeah. I think you're on to something there. Extraordinary for Life says that one-handed interception catch was fire. Might get drafted off that one alone. LOL. There were some crazy plays over the weekend. A lot of crazy plays. Georgia, they had a corner with a nasty pick against Clemson. There were a couple of crazy plays. I forgot what school the dude went to, but he made this sick interception. I was like, whoa, what the hell was that about? So you saw some incredible plays. Guys went off. The receiver for Arizona went off, had 300 and something yards receiving, right? Set a program record. McMillan, right? The kid Genty for Boise State went off, set a school record for most rushing yards in a game. He had 6 touchdowns, 267 yards rushing. Like, what are we doing here, guys? So yeah, it was a crazy weekend in college football, and there were some big plays. The USC receiver had 2 crazy catches in that game too. So yeah, it was a lot of Malachi Starks. That's his name. I think the guy from, I want to say from Georgia. I think that's his name. Ghost Rider says, I'm glad the Commanders Nightly News is back. So am I, because that means it's football season. So I'm definitely excited that that's back. Ghost Rider also writes, Adam Peters signed Sam to a 4-year contract. I'm glad, because it's not like Trent and Brandon Sheriff situations. Brandon situations. I'm glad Sam got a contract. And yeah, we're gonna talk more about it tonight. But I think we have PTSD from those situations. Not Trent as much as Brandon Sheriff. This felt like a Brandon Sheriff type situation, and I don't think he was gonna do what Brandon Sheriff did. But I remember Cosme at the end. I'll save it for tonight. Yeah, I'll save it for tonight. I always say that, and then I end up talking too much. Let me shut my mouth. Let's see. Kevin the PRF says, shame I got to start bringing my TSA wands on my dates. Good one. Good one. That ain't, she ain't shit for that. But hey, got to watch the company you keep. Hey, I tell people all the time, stay off those damn dating apps. You won't, hey, as a wise man once said to me, actually, I say this, but you don't learn till it's your turn. All right. Stay off them damn dating apps. I've seen many a person burnt and not in the way you're thinking on them damn dating apps. Stay off the damn dating apps. Let me say this real quick too. For those of you out there that have been trying to send your payments on Cash App, I know you've been having some issues with that. This is why I tell y'all, don't wait till the last minute. A wise man once told me, don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. A lot of y'all wait till the last minute. I'm not blaming y'all because this is a Cash App thing. I think they got inundated with a bunch of payments at once. I mean, I got so many payments last night that they was like, is there some illegal activity going on? So they've essentially shut down me getting payments. Just keep trying. That's all I can tell you is I've been trying to work with them throughout the course of the day to get them to push through some of this stuff. I may have to try to, request the money from some of you guys because I've seen some of you repeatedly trying to pay and repeatedly being turned away. We're going to figure it out. But if it's not today, at some point, they're going to allow you to send your money. But I understand the frustration on your end trying to get it in. But just continue to be persistent. That's all I can tell you is keep trying. All they can tell you is no. Keep trying, keep trying. Eventually, you're going to get the green light at some point. But if I see that you're trying to get your money in, even if it doesn't happen prior to, now we're not going to be pushing this thing out, 3-4 days past the start of the season. But if I've seen you try to get your money in and I know your registration is already in and you've tried to pay multiple times, I'm going to make an exception for you. You're going to be in there when the season starts and we'll find a way to get the money, right? Don't worry about it. But keep trying is all I can tell you, okay? Let's see. See what else we got. Kevin the PRF says they still got Josh Allen. Put a period on that, just like the Chiefs. Josh Allen is my guy. But here's the problem I have with Josh Allen. When he puts on the cape, sometimes it's counterproductive. And Josh Allen is at his best when he doesn't feel compelled to put the team on his shoulders. I think he's better when he can go out and just be himself and let the game kind of come to him. And then when plays, an opportunity for him to make a big play happens, he can just make it. Whereas when he forces it and he's running around with the ball in his hand like a sponge, and he's getting hit and he's fumbling or he's trying to dive over people and he's doing stupid shit or he's forcing the ball and interceptions happen, that's where shit can go off the rails for the Bills. And I think he's gonna feel a little bit more of that this year because I'm not sure about the defense. And because there's not as many weapons around him, he may feel compelled, hey, I got to do this shit myself. That's the only thing I'm worried about. But I agree. They got Josh Allen. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't put a period on that. I put an exclamation point on that. They got Josh Allen. Exclamation point. The hell are you talking about? I went back and forth. I just think the Jets, with that defense, if Rodgers is good, that's a lot to overcome. Remember, this Jets team beat them last year with Zach Wilson. And that was one of those games where Josh Allen, this is what I'm talking about, he was trying to do too much. in that game. What did he throw? 3 or 4 picks in that game? Fumbled in that game? Like, that's the shit I'm talking about. When he feels like I got to do more, it could get ugly fast. So I just need him to just let the game come to him. If he does that, I think they'll be fine. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "Hey LT, I've not rooted harder for someone to succeed as much as I'm rooting for Emmanuel Forbes. I almost see this as his rookie year. If he's good, we're good." I'm rooting for him like hell too, because he's feeling the pressure of not performing well. You could tell. And he hears the noise as much as they try to tell, oh, I don't want to be on social media. I block it. That sideline interview in that game against the Dolphins told me all I needed to know about where his head is at. So I need this group to work a miracle on that kid and get him to play the type of football that I know he's capable of playing, but he's not a man-to-man cover corner. That's not who he is. They have to put him in positions to be successful, and I think they will. I think they will. I think they will. I'm with you. I'm rooting for him like hell. I don't see this as his rookie season, though, but I could see why you would say that. Last year was a disaster, and it wasn't a good situation for him, right? Reedy Davis, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, "Lou, can't wait for Commanders. Love my O's. Crying about my Seminoles. Man, boy, your Seminoles stink. Whew, it's a funky stench coming from that Seminoles team right now, boy. For as good as you were last year, and it's funny because we made fun of Jordan Travis for being like 29 years old last year, but damn, you missed Jordan Travis. Golly, it's a different team. And yeah, you lost some talent last year, but your roster shouldn't be as bad as it is right now. I mean, you guys are abysmal on offense. It's hard to watch. And first it was Georgia Tech, now Boston College. And I know Bill O'Brien was going to bring a little bit of energy to that Boston College program, and they were going to look significantly better. And they did, but this is more about Florida State than it is Boston College or Georgia Tech. You guys just stink. And in an ACC that's wide open, it's a damn shame. But yeah, they're horrible. It's Florida State. And it's only going to get worse. It's crazy because we thought they were back. Just 3 years ago, that program was on shaky ground. And you're like, man, what happened to Florida State? Right? What happened to them? And then it felt like they were back. And now it feels like they right back to where they were prior to last year. So, yikes. Let's see. John Perez writes, LSU let me down this weekend. Nussmeier played his ass off, but we were too undisciplined and our defense couldn't get stops at the end. I was impressed with Nussmeier. You know who else I was impressed with? The Miller Moss kid, or Moss Miller, or whatever the hell his name is, from USC. Both of those quarterbacks were throwing dimes. I was like, man, this is some impressive quarterbacking right here. I didn't know. You know, I always take it with a grain of salt when I'm watching USC play, because I'm like, okay, their defense probably ass. So I don't want to get too excited about what Nussmeier is doing. But the defense is supposed to be better. We'll see, right? But those quarterbacks were throwing some dimes out there. They really were. And you're right. Your defense, at the most important time of the game, they chose to have arguably one of their worst defensive possessions. Because even at the end, I was like, force that stinking ass field goal kicker to kick this field goal. He missed a chip shot right before halftime. Force him to kick this field goal. And y'all give up a rushing touchdown, right? Like, God damn, make him kick the kick. Don't let him walk in the end zone. Make him kick the kick. Twin D, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Twin D writes, attention Phillies and the Braves. Don't look back. Something's coming. Don't talk to us. Talk to the Phillies, okay? We can't get the Phillies to lose. Like, we had a chance over the weekend. We had them dead to rights, and we blew it twice. So we should have swept them. Had a chance to sweep them, and instead we split a series with them. We're not going to catch the Phillies. I don't think you're going to catch them because they just don't lose enough. Now, if you want my wild card, I'm so banged up and I got so many guys that shouldn't be on our roster playing meaningful, innings for us that anything's possible. So I'll just tell you like this. If you want it, you're going to have to take it from our cold, dead hands. We're not just going to give it to you. All right, you have to pry it from our cold, dead hands, but it's available. And this ain't the Braves team that was at the beginning of the year looking like, a World Series roster. That shit has been depleted. No Austin Riley, no Ronald Acuna. Ozzie Albies has been out of the lineup for much of the season. We just got Michael Harris back. They took Spencer Strider from us beginning of the season. I could go on and on with all the damn injuries, right? It's been a mess this season. Yet, here we are, still fighting our ass off trying to make the playoffs. Don't know if it's going to happen, but you want this? You want to get to the playoffs? You're gonna have to take it. You ain't catching the Phillies, though. I'm gonna tell you that right now. You ain't catching the Phillies. You might catch us for that last wild card, though, because we ain't shit. Let's see. John Perez writes, I like the Ravens as my Super Bowl pick. Derrick Henry, I feel like, was the missing piece. You know what? I forgot he was even in Baltimore. I forgot all about Derrick Henry. I can't wait to watch him in a Ravens uniform. That 1-2 punch between him and Lamar in that backfield could be devastating. I can't wait to see what that looks like. Speaking of which, perfect segue, JP, to our final segment of the show and garbage time. So let's preview that game. All right, Ravens at Chiefs. They'll drop the banner on Thursday night for the Chiefs' third Super Bowl victory in the last, 5 years, second in a row. And they will go on a quest that few teams have gone on, and that is the attempt to try and make it 3 in a row. I think only, 2 franchises have had an opportunity to try and do this in the last 30 years. Dallas Cowboys and the New England Patriots. So this is not a feat that comes along very often. I think the Patriots won back-to-back Super Bowls in 01 and 02, or was it 03 and 04? I think they won in 03 and 04 because they won in 01. I think the Bucks won in 02, and then they won in 03 and 04, and then they couldn't get it done in 05. The Cowboys obviously won 3 and 4 years, just like the Patriots did. 92 and 93. They didn't win it in 94. The 49ers did, and then they won it in 95. So we'll see if the Chiefs can get it done. Last year, remember this same exact spot last year? They dropped the banner. They showed up, and the Lions smacked them in the mouth. Now, there was no Travis Kelce in that game, remember. But the Lions went in there, made a statement early, went for it on 4th down on the first possession of the game on a fake punt, got the first down, went down and scored a touchdown, and that set the tone for the game, won the game 20-19. But the Chiefs, they feel like they got a better roster this year. Obviously, the defense was lights out last season. They don't have L'Jarius Sneed anymore. So I don't know. And they're moving the best nickel corner to boundary in Trent McDuffie. So you might have, weakened the defense at 2 spots. Not that Trent McDuffie isn't a good boundary corner, but he might not be as good as L'Jarius Sneed out there. And I know they're not going to have a better nickel than him. Maybe what they'll do is in critical situations, 3rd downs, whatnot, they'll kick McDuffie back inside to the nickel and have somebody come in to play boundary corner. I don't know, but I can't imagine the defense being better than what it was last year. But I can't imagine the offense being as worse as it was last year, right? Because as bad as it was, I can't imagine the offense being worse than it was last year because the offense wasn't very good last year. And they didn't have very many targets to get the football to. Now, no Hollywood Brown in week 1, and we'll monitor that situation, for the coming weeks. They'd love to have him back next week for the big showdown against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2. They'd love to have him back for that, but we'll see if he's able to be back because with him in the lineup, that's a different offense. and they've added speed with the Xavier Worthy kid out of Texas, and then Hollywood Brown, and guys that can actually catch speed and actually can catch the ball. They moved on from Kadarius Toney. They've moved on from Marquez Valdez Scantling, and they've gotten better at the receiver position. They added a pass catching tight end in Jared Wiley, who I loved in the draft out of TCU. It's a much better offense. So Mahomes has more weapons to work with. We'll see how good the defense is. They're going to get a nice test in this game from the Ravens. And a lot of people forget this. The Ravens were the #1 seed, and Lamar Jackson won the NFL MVP last year. Like, this is a good Ravens football team that's coming into Arrowhead. And I don't think Arrowhead has the mystique that it once had, where, oh my God, you can't go into Arrowhead and win. It's such a loud environment, and the Chiefs are so good at home. You can go into Arrowhead and win. I've seen teams go in there and play well and beat them. The Eagles did it last year. The Bills should have beaten them if not for Kadarius. Or wait, the Bills did beat them last year, excuse me, in Arrowhead. The Lions did it last year as well. So you can go into Arrowhead. The mystique has worn off of Arrowhead. So I'm not too concerned about that. I will say this. There's something about that first game of the season, and all that, the energy that comes with that. And uh, you know, last year was an aberration because rarely do the teams that win the Super Bowl the year previous that get that Thursday night kickoff opener lose that game. It's very rare that that happens. Um, and the only reason I think it happened last year is because, remember, not only was there no Travis Kelce, there was no Chris Jones in that game as well. He was holding out for financial reasons. So he's a happy man now. He's been paid, and Travis Kelce got paid over the offseason as well. So there are no such issues in Kansas City. Everybody's healthy, ready to rock and roll. I just don't see them dropping this game. I know the Ravens are not afraid of them, and the Ravens are fully capable, but I watched the Chiefs go into Baltimore and punk them last year, right? I don't think the Ravens are capable of winning this game on the road. If this game were in Baltimore, I'd think twice about it. But I remember when the Ravens beat them, maybe felt like what 2-3 years ago on a Sunday night, the game where I want to say um, one of the Chiefs running backs fumbled at the very end of the game, inopportune time, fumbled the ball, and the Ravens recovered and ultimately they went for it on 4th down, got it, won the game. And it was like 38-35 or 35-33 or some shit like that. It was a really good ball game, and the Ravens won, and it felt like the Super Bowl for them. Harbaugh was so pumped after that game. Lamar, you could tell like a weight off his shoulders because they could never beat the Chiefs. It takes a lot for them to beat Kansas City, but that was at home, and they needed a late game fumble for that game to go their way. I just don't think they're gonna win this game, but it wouldn't shock me if they did. I'm actually interested in seeing offensively what the Ravens look like because they lost a lot at receiver, last year. And I know they still got Bateman and they still got Zay Flowers, but no more Odell Beckham Jr. and some of the other guys that they had. I know one of their returners is gone. It feels like it's a different group of receivers this year. So I want to see, because it felt like they were loaded last year at receiver. It feels like they're okay at receiver right now. We know they're loaded at tight end, as they always are. And obviously Derrick Henry is a massive X factor. So I want to see what that looks like. If they can run the football consistently in this game, control the line of scrimmage, which is what the Ravens want to do. They want to be bullies. They can control which is what they couldn't do in the AFC Championship game. They can control the line of scrimmage, be physical, and that'll open up pass lanes, in the secondary. If they can do that, they'll have a shot to win this game because they'll be controlling the clock. They'll be controlling the flow of the game. They'll be keeping Mahomes off the field, and they'll be making that defense work. If they can't do that consistently, and the game is in the hands of Lamar and he's got to find his playmakers, I don't know if I see them winning this game. Either way. And then remember, the Ravens don't have, McDonald anymore. Mike McDonald is gone. He's now in Seattle. So the defense could look, drastically different. In Anthony Weaver is now in Miami, who was very instrumental in their defensive setup as their D-line coach or assistant defensive line coach. So I just think there are a lot of unknowns with Baltimore, not so much with the Chiefs. And we already know Spags is going to bring the pressure and the heat, and Lamar better be ready to deal with it. And if he can't, it's going to be a long night. I got the Chiefs winning this game. It's going to be fun. It's going to be entertaining. I see the Chiefs winning a 27-20 ball game, 27-23, 27-20. The Ravens will need a touchdown late and not get it, right? They'll need a touchdown late and they won't get it. So let's go 27-23 is the score in this game. Chiefs get it done and start the season off with a bang. So I like the opener though. This is going to be a fun one, man. I can't wait to watch. This is a really, you think about the two games, Friday, and we'll be back on Friday, so we'll be able to preview the Brazil game between the Eagles and the Packers. But man, I am stoked for this one. Boy, it feels good. Feels good. Feels good. Football is back. Are you ready for some football? Damn, I'm ready. Bart Scott. Can't wait. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Louie T Network podcast, episode 444, aka the Moses Malone episode. Hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back on Friday with our Thursday night leftovers. We going to the fridge, y'all. Going to the fridge, y'all. We gonna pop open the fridge, maybe even have to use the microwave depending on what we munching on to get to those leftovers and get to our picks for week number 1 in the National Football League. Feels good. The money picks are back. The money picks are back, and we'll preview that game on Friday. We got a Friday night contest. Packers and Eagles from Brazil. So we'll be back to talk about that as well. Anyway, I digress. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys on Friday on the podcast. For those of you who are Commanders fans or just want to come kick it with the kid later on tonight, Commanders Nightly News live tonight at 9:30. Lots to discuss there. Sam Cosmi gets his contract. A Commanders staffer was suspended for making some interesting comments, to say the least. And we heard from the coach and the quarterback and the newly blessed Sam Cosmi. So we'll discuss all those things and more. Todd Bowles is fired up for week 1. Lots to discuss. Hopefully, I'll see you later on tonight. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. See you guys next time. God bless. Good night.